You can't see her, but we can hear
I'm
her voice.
here.
I'm still dancing.
Some other artists together. In common things, friends, in common, like amazing.
Hello, Düsseldorf. It's a September show on the Stream D, where creativity, culture, and communication collide. Hello, hello, and today we have a really unique experience because our co-host is Paul, and
Hello.
Nelly, not unfortunately, it's a great Nelly in Italy. Yeah, Sasha has a really wonderful event, and we are wishing success. And our guest today is Ion Barbu, the creative director, the art director, the famous person in the world of fashion, who is gonna tell us more about everything what he knows, the secrets, some go-to things, and we're really excited to having you here today.
Yay! Thank you. Thanks so much for the invitation. I look forward to the great conversations. First time on a radio show, so exciting.
Yeah. And the first question I'm gonna ask you, really, I wanna ask like that. What has happened with ESPRIT book archives? Tell me. I need one. I need one.
Well, the ESPRIT archive is not just the books. It's been like a huge collection of physical artifacts and also digital artifacts. It's been put together in boxes and stored somewhere. Last I know was somewhere on the old HQ, and it's been passed over to the whoever bought the license. So
who bought the license? Because I did not find any info. I found the one company in Köln. The name is Theo something, and they bought the license, the main license. But the company who is searching who they can sell it further, and at the same time for shoes, the Deichmann has it. But is it so? Like this is a huge question. I really have no idea. Like really,
it's a little bit of a, let's say, invisible zone. Unless you're really there at the top, involved in the conversations, it's difficult to know. But I mean, in the press, it was shared that Deichmann had acquired the license, and I don't know what their plan is going forward. But technically, the archive, whoever has the license, they also own the physical archive, and there's also some archive still in Hong Kong, and maybe I'm not really sure of the whereabouts of the one that was in New York, where that is.
I wish to have one and sell it for $1 million after all, because this is exactly a book with a DNA. We need to have it. I'm like, $1 million.
I do have the digital version of the book, so I can share those with you if you want.
Please.
Yeah,
Maybe we will negotiate.
I'll give it to you for free. So no worries.
Guys, I'm not going to give it to free then, after all, to anyone. Paul, you have a really great question, I know.
I do?
Yes.
Well, only about the education part. Should I start with that? Okay. Well, we've both studied in England. In the UK, we did film production, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And would love to hear your experience with the film school in England. If that has brought you anything, would you say it was worth studying because either for making connections or you learned something actually from that school, because I barely learned much there, or just any in general experience from England that you brought to your work now?
Thank you. It's a great question because I think it relates to a greater aspect that is very relevant for young people today, which is it worth going into university and going through the academic route, or is it better to go and do something by yourself? And even when I was studying, 13 years ago, there was still that question of like, what if I just start something and learn on the job? And it really depends on the context and the circumstance. There are, and for me, one of the advantages that I had was that I grew up in Romania, and then I had the opportunity to study in England, which was an entirely new culture. And you also, an entirely new culture has different ways of looking at things. And that was a huge experience to see how they were teaching critical thinking there, how they were taking apart media and studying it. So there was a lot of useful context coming from that. And secondly, it is, and you already mentioned it, it's all the connections that you make. When you go through university, you will always share that experience with those people, and you're growing together in an industry. So even if you lose touch after some time, but if I reach out to one of my previous colleagues or mates from university, I'm like, hey, how's it going? I got this idea, this project, or I've seen you've done this. Tell me about it. It's already an open door. We shared like 3 years together, so it's not like a cold call. So that's something that you take for life, and you have this shared experience that will always help. And then in terms of the actual things that you learn, the curriculum gives you all the theoretical part, which is great to open up your mind and stuff like that. But in reality, after you graduate, you don't really have any practical experience. You might have done some filming, some student things, and it's great to get your mind going. But I think all of us had that illusion. It's like, dude, I graduated. I'm great, man. I was like, top 1%. I know what I'm doing. But then the reality of the day-to-day is completely different. And you do get, you maybe have like a big head after your graduation. And it's like, I know it all. But then reality beats you down in your place. And then you open up your mind to practical things, and you learn from on the job,
Yeah, but like you said, for example, that university gives you theoretical things that you can use as an art director, and it's easy to then do layouts, for example, if you need to for a campaign, or mood boards. This basic, which is give you a really good platform to start, like you said it about it.
Yeah,
you did study film production in general, and then you went to art direction after later, right?
Yeah.
I would love to hear the difference between what you learned in film school, and then how you adapted then to art direction or creative direction. And also the difference between a film director and creative direction.
Great, thank you. I would like to start with maybe just talking a little bit about what art direction is, and why is it so important nowadays. And to me, art direction, it really has to do with intention. So a lot of us take pictures, now everybody has their own brand, and you put a lot of stuff out there into the online space. And art direction is applying intention behind every decision of creating an asset, whether it's a photo, a video, or altogether layouted and with graphic treatment assets. So that's what an art director does. It works first on a concept, and you come up with what is unique about what I want to do. So nothing is random, and then you take that and you have to bring it to life. So you work with other creatives, whether it's photographers, whether it's filmmakers, videographers, designers, to bring that idea to life. And this is what art directors do also in fashion, in advertising. You also have art direction in movies, and that's a little bit different. It still has to do with the art department, but that basically relates more to the set dressing and what people do. How do you visualize that world, and how do you the props that you use and everything.
Yeah, before we will jump into really discover more about that.
Awesome. Hi, guys.
Hi guys, it's September show.
Yeah, guys, we are back in the studio. September show on StreamD. Follow us everywhere in Instagram, LinkedIn, September 9 production. And we continue with our question, Paul.
Yes, what is the difference between art direction and film direction?
Nice. Thank you for that. Great choice on the music track, by the way. We were talking about studying in England, Panic at the Disco. Awesome. So the difference between art direction and film direction, as a film director, when you're on set, your main goal will be to get the best performance out of the actors. And that's a similarity when, as an art director on set, you want to make sure that you get the best out of your models, also out of your photographer and everything. So there's a lot of intersection in that respect because they're both, let's say, creative lead functions. And both as a film director and art director, you've done a lot of pre-work. You know what you want to achieve in your mind, and then you work with the creative team on set to achieve that. So you're not supposed to micromanage anyone, but you're there to guide them. So when you're focusing on like film, you focus on the performance. You've talked with your DOP. You've you know your blocking. You got your lighting, and then on there you're just focusing on the performance of the actors. When you're art directing a photo session or a film session for fashion, let's say, you have there's just a lot more reviewing as you go along. So you might be shooting some things, and then you go with the photographer. You check out like the photos that you liked, and be like, we like this pose. Let's explore it a little bit further. So you have more of I would say like feels more like a workshop sometimes if you're doing it right. So you're allowing everyone to bring that creativity. So you've started with the concept, but you might discover something entirely new while you're doing that shoot, which is not to say that everything is predefined 100% for a film, but it's kind of like
would it be like something more like you're going for more like a vibe when you're doing art direction, and with film is a little bit more precise because you have one medium, and the other ones you have several mediums but the same vibe that you would maybe have in common? Or?
Yeah, in a way, especially if you're working on for an agency or the client side as an art director, you always have in the back of your mind the media outlets where the outcome is going to be used, so it's a difference if you're if you're doing a photo shoot for a print ad, or if you're doing it just for social or something like this. So you always have that in the back of your mind because it's a holistic sort of job. At the end of the day, as the art director, you're going to be responsible for how everything is implemented at the end. So if I'll give you an example. If you're doing a shoot, but you already have a very specific graphic treatment that you want to apply onto the photos, that will inform how you do the photo shoot. Mm-hmm. But, if you're a film director and you're shooting according to your script, you might not really know exactly how the editor is going to chop it up, and they might discover something, or you will discover something together with them. So there's a lot of intersection in what it is you're doing, but there are also some nuances that are specific to the job,
But if we're talking already about difference between art director and creative director, and I know you have been working with Ana Andjelic. Mm-hmm. Could you please tell a little bit
Anna,
more,
by the way.
a little bit more about your experience, because we have been talking about this before in the cafe.
Yeah.
And you said really nice words about it, this experience and how you see it. And could you please tell our audience as well?
Yeah, thank you. There's another difference between art direction and creative direction. And the difference there being that creative direction involves more of a strategic role. Like, in addition to the creative understanding, you're more in a strategic seat. So you might have directly influenced or high visibility on the creative future of a brand, and you define certain avenues or certain ideas in a creative territory for a brand on a strategic level, and then you will have an entire creative team under you that is supposed to bring that creative vision to life. So in a way, as a creative director, you're not necessarily going to be on the shoot checking it out and doing art direction. Your art directors are going to do that based on the creative territory that you've established for them. And that's a huge difference. So creative direction is more high level, more strategic, more leadership. Art direction is more conceptual, hands-on, bringing ideas to life within those parameters. And I've had the pleasure of working with Ana Andjelic for ESPRIT, where she was the chief brand officer, and she established creative direction for ESPRIT, where she wanted the brand to go. And then I was leading the creative team here in Europe. And based on that, we were coming up with concepts to take that vision and really bring it to life through photo shoots and video shoots. And then this informs everything, like all touch points and expressions of the brand. So that's really kind of the relations. And there's like little blurred lines between creative director and chief brand officer and all of these things. It really depends also the internal structures. But most brands tend, or the most successful brands tend to have a very, very good strategic creative approach. And then this also gives clarity to the people working creatively to bring that brand to the eyes of everybody else. So if somebody comes and says, hey, you can do whatever you want, that's like the worst thing you can hear as a creative, because you're not going to know what you're going to do. Like, give me something, give me some guidelines.
You know, I was not there when the in the ESPRIT studio when the creative changes were announced, and I remember me coming back, and they're like, Ana, you're gonna love it. I'm like, what? They're like, first of all, the background is colorful, and you can ask model to jump. And we were laughing because I'm always taking these, strange angles and they're like, finally, you can do it. But I just really enjoyed. The only thing I was really feel like maybe challenging, it's a background thing. We have to move every day. I just like, ooh.
The colorful backgrounds.
Yeah, it was like, ooh, fun, but really heavy.
Yeah. This is also another part that comes with the job when you're in the industry working. You might not always agree with some of the high-level decisions, but you got to stay professional and you got to deliver to the best of your ability within those constraints. So whether you can't always do exactly what you love, but the part of being a professional entails that you will do it regardless. But there's always us as creatives, we all have the pleasure of kind of like playing and being paid for that. So there's always a level of experimentation and conversation that you can have, regardless of what it is that you're doing. And that's also the beauty of it, that you can have a dialogue when somebody says like, we should do it like that, and be like, I'm not feeling this. So how can we, and maybe you reach a compromise, like halfway, and that's also beautiful. I mean, Ana, you're a photographer, right? You've also worked with art directors, and you also sometimes maybe just art directed yourself. How is it for you, the experience as a photographer of having an art director or not having an art director on a shoot?
Well, I think the difference is, like you said, because our director has already more maybe information in the background that it's going to be in the end and how you're going to see it from your point. And with our director, when you're working, yes, you have a precise storyline and precise visuals that they wanna have in the end, which is nice. It's open conversation. You still can say, oh, how about that? And they say, yeah, cool, that actually looks nice. I didn't photo it, let's go. And when I do it for myself, how I'm doing, well, it goes crazy.
All the voices in your head, they start like having crazy
the
conversations.
crying stylist saying like, no, I can't deal with her. She's doing what she wants.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love you guys.
More color.
Awesome. Hi, guys.
Hi guys, it's September show.
We're back here, September show on Stream D. Follow us everywhere and our guests as well. And Ion, as a creative, and we have been talking about that, we all have influence. And I know Paul has a really nice question. We have all, like we have somebody who influence our art, our perception, and so on and so forth. We have big names like David LaChapelle and so on. Is there any person who really influenced it that much that you would say, okay, when I do my work, I kind of have it in my back mind, this person is my, like a leader of
Great question. Thank you. It's not like just one person. I think it becomes into like a mix of things that I just naturally have a tendency towards, and this took some time to really develop over like time and my career so far. But as you do more and more the same, let's say, profession, you start naturally navigating towards certain things, and that ultimately is influenced by people who have done it before you, like great masters, whether they're filmmakers or photographers or designers or colleagues. There's also huge inspiration from your peers and people that do the same thing as you. And I find the whole topic of inspiration nowadays hugely important. For one reason in particular, and I know I'm digressing a little bit from like I don't know if you're expecting any names, but basically
Yes, names.
what I find nowadays in the creative world is like we're all looking at the same stuff. Like it's become really homogenous, the way people draw inspiration, because it's like we're all using the same tools. It's like, everybody's like already over Pinterest. You use like Cosmos or Arena or something like that. But ultimately, we're looking at the same references. And then when you're also looking at the output, it becomes like very familiar. It's like, oh, I've seen that before. Oh, I know what this is referencing. So nowadays, more than ever, it's becoming like what's setting people apart creatively is like, how do you take a reference to a completely different new place? Like when you look at something, where are you able to take it that it almost feels like entirely new? And I think like it was Godard who said that it's not like where you take things from, is where you take things to. And I love it when I see something that I immediately recognize the reference, but then I'm also impressed, like, I see what they did there. Like they took it to a new level. And I was always inspired and fascinated by people who achieved this, and also people who managed to really balance art and commerce. So we're all in creative industries, but ultimately the goal is to sell a product, sadly. And there's always that negotiation that you have to do between your artistic drive and stuff that you really love and you find beautiful, and then the commercial pressure that you have from your KPIs and your business. And they'll be like, well, I love your pictures, but they're not selling. We've been testing them A/B test with more product-driven ones, and you're outperformed. So you got to do something better. So for me, this was always something that I looked at, like the balance between art and commerce. And my all-time favorite filmmaker, Martin Scorsese, I think always achieves this in a way that his films are highly entertaining. You can take them at like face value and you're purely entertained. But there's also a lot of subtext. If you really are a film geek and you look at the references and you're like, oh my God, it's talking about this and about that. And then with like photography, I think everyone is inspired by the classics of, last century, because they defined a lot of like the visual spectrum that people have been reinterpreting and drawing references from. So it's very difficult to kind of like pinpoint any more particular like names or something like this. It's more of a mix of stuff that you look at and you save and you like. I always like stuff that has a hint of humor, because I feel like humor is a universal language, and people, whether if they get it, then they're in. If they don't get it, that also says something about. So it's really like a good way of understanding the world. So it's like balance between art and commerce, something humorous, something that gets people thinking. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a very like haha joke, but something like, did you get it? Like, it could be a little twist. And then something that is like impactful and memorable, not that you just like consume it and it's like buy. So these are kind of like the things that I save. When I see it's like, oh, great, saved. I'll give an example. Recently I saw on Reels a commercial that Calvin Klein did with Brooke Shields for jeans. And the whole voiceover is about like genes as your DNA and how like the best genes survive and how some genes are mutated, but she's trying on a pair of jeans and they're talking about Calvin Klein jeans. Fucking genius, man.
Yeah.
Funny, cool, beautifully shot. I was like, I'm saving this and maybe see where I can take it further.
Yeah, further. But if we talk about the fashion, exactly, well, this is what I thought before you start to talk about jeans. We all have jeans wearing today, but what is now really separate the brands? You know what I mean? Is it really matter how they really fight for their consumers? Because now it looks like we have so many products in the market. Like this example of Calvin Klein is brilliant, but you know what I mean? How to fight really for the client, how to fight for the eye of consumer, how to sell now.
Yeah, true. It's really like a challenge that all the business minds are working with. And this also like depends. So for example, you know, Paul, you're a dude. What kind of
Yes, that's true.
how do you buy jeans, man? You find a couple of brands that you really like, and then you just buy there until one of them
I
disappoints.
usually just go to a shop and just try them out from my looks, from what it looks like. I don't really look at the brands. I have some in mind that I have. Okay, I used to wear those and they kind of fit me well. So okay, maybe I'll try from them, but otherwise not really. I don't really look at the brand, so I don't even know what I'm wearing now. So just jeans.
Yeah. This is kind of supporting the argument I was going to make a little bit. It's like, for example, guys, they tend to be more brand loyal. So, you know, you find a few things that you really like and then you keep shopping there. And unless they grossly disappoint you, you're not going to look necessarily for something else. And this applies for clothes, cosmetics, and something else. Whereas, you know, women, they tend to be more curious, more experimental. They might have already a palette of like 5 brands that they love. But if a 6th one is on the scene, it's like, well, let's give it a go. See what they bring. And it's true across the whole of fashion, whether it's like, you know, more mainstream, more luxury, everybody's fighting to not be interchangeable. That, you know, if you don't see the logo, would you be able to tell if it's a ZARA or if it's a Jacquemus or something like that? And this is really achieved through the kind of like adverts and the kind of media that they put out there. And there are certain brands that do it really, really well, and they're very unique. If you don't see the logo, you immediately recognize, like, you know, an old school example would be like Nike. If you saw a Nike ad, you'd be like, yeah, that's kind of like Nike. And then as you go lower into more mainstream, it's very difficult to be unique. So if we're super honest, a lot of the brands are interchangeable and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference necessarily. And then the difference that makes it is kind of like tactics. Who's better with the marketing tactics? Who's better at like doing ads, converting? Who's got more touch points? Who's got bigger newsletter database? And that's kind of...
Great answer. And we're going to talk about this differentiation about video for e-commerce and movies.
Awesome. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. It's September show.
We are back with a September show on StreamD. Jon, we're going to talk about video production and video production for the marketing. What is this, let's say, from your point as art director, creative director, what do you find the most important while the shooting marketing video? What is the main focus? Maybe like the casting of the model, I assume it's really important as well, right? The storytelling, how you are working it? What the first step to start to work on the campaign?
Nice, thank you. First of all, I was getting a little bit worried that you're putting these, like, I thought you were going to play the original 6-minute version of Another Brick in the Wall. I was like, dude, am I doing good on the show? Like, what's going on, man? Why are we having like these long ass songs? But luckily it was the 4 minutes. So I was like, we're good. Great question on this. Like, casting is hugely important, regardless of what you're doing, whether it's e-com or whether it's marketing. The difference between marketing campaign, the difference between like e-com and high-level marketing is that e-com is more relatable. So you want people, you like your customers who shop there, that they immediately like, yeah, this person looks kind of like me, I relate to them. Whereas high-level marketing campaigns are more aspirational. So you might be talking more to the customer that you don't yet have, but you want to get, and you want to have that halo effect. You're reaching out so that you get their eyeballs on your campaign. So that's casting does a lot of that thing, you know. So easy way to understand it would be like with age, you know. If you look at most of the brands, the e-com stuff that they have is kind of like the people who buy there. So you would recognize them like, oh, yeah, it's kind of how people dress who wear this brand. But in some of their like big billboards or advertising or social campaigns, it might be a little bit more artsy. It might be more like you have these unique faces. If you're doing, you know, if you're like a ZARA, if you're like a Jacquemus or Loewe, you know, you always want to bring something fresh, maybe some faces that people haven't seen. And, you know, depending on where you are on the food chain as a brand, you're keeping an eye on like fashion shows and things like that. So casting is hugely important. And the other thing that is most important is to really know your audience as a brand. So you have to talk their language if you want to convert them. So you might have a small audience or a huge audience, it really doesn't matter, but you have to appeal to them. If you want to convert at the end of the day, like we said, it's a business thing. So you want to create a vibe, you want to create a cool brand world, but it also needs to make money. Otherwise, you won't have enough money to keep creating those things. So the core thing is knowing your target audience and talking a language that they understand and that they like. And within that, you can always be aspirational and show them how they could be just a little bit more cooler, or how you can extend and build on that tribe through, it tends to always work like a snowball effect. You know, you have the core cool people and then other people who look at them, and they suddenly that grows, and that's how you expand. So
but how to grow the subculture, let's say?
I think the core principle there is to stay true to your brand world and brand universe, and to expand it in a natural and organic way. And that's where creativity comes in. So, you know, you have your pillars, you have maybe a brand philosophy, you have a brand aesthetic, you have defined certain things, but you can't keep that so rigid forever. You know, you have to interpret it in new contemporary ways. And the most successful brands I find are the ones that relate to context. You know, we all live in the world, and we check the news, we check pop culture, what's going on. And when you have a brand that feels also alive, that is reacting to what's going on, that they're present into the things that you care about, they start feeling like one of those, like, I know it's maybe cliche and cheesy, but like a friend. It's like they're there. And truly today, what brands really care about is how much time do people spend with your brand. So that's really like a key metric. You've seen brands starting to open broadcast channels on Instagram, and they're doing like live shows, and they're doing like bigger, 3-hour streams with a DJ set. And for sure, nobody's going to watch for like 3 hours. But even if they spend 20 minutes with your brand, that's huge. Yeah. That's like, this customer spent 20 minutes. Very rarely you have somebody spends like 25 minutes on a website. So creating that appeal and having this relationship to your customers is something that will ensure your longevity as a brand. And then internally, it's the responsibility of the creative minds to find new ways to keep that brand aesthetic fresh, and to, in a way, surprise themselves with how can you show it in a different way.
But with surprising yourself, the self-education, the most crucial role here, right? Taking the most crucial role. How people in the creative industry can self-educate? Of course, you can go online courses, yes. But at the end of the day, you have so much experience that sometimes you feel overqualified for most of the courses presented on the market, let's say, right? And how you can push your boundaries, how you push yourself, how you pushing yourself.
What I find, it's a great question, by the way, and I hope people often ask themselves these kind of questions who are especially young people who want to better themselves and push themselves in their careers. And I think a key ingredient there is to be self-aware and reflect on whatever it is that it's going on. So, for example, even in the corporate space where, let's say, like you're working creatively, but in a corporation that tends to be more rigid, you will always have experiences that you can learn from, whether it is maybe you have a boss that you don't like, you can learn about bad leadership. Write down things that you don't want to repeat when you become a leader yourself. So it's always having this self-reflective approach, regardless of where you are in your career, what you're doing, learning, writing down and learning from what's happening to you, and keeping those lessons for future. So if you don't take time to process what's going on, for sure you can go along and move along, but you might repeat the same mistakes, and then you'd be like, I've been in this situation. What was this I wasn't supposed to do? But if you have this understanding and you write things down and you get a clear idea of I shouldn't repeat this. This is something more that I should do. So you start developing kind of tools and kits for your personal navigation in your career. And I feel like this is always, you also see your weaknesses. It's okay, I need to learn how to be more assertive. People don't really pay attention to what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. How can I do that in a pleasant way? And then you see somebody who does it really well. It's kind of, learn from them, steal what they're doing. How do they do it?
So Anna, did you write down bad stuff about Ion when you worked together?
No,
as a leader?
Yeah, but I already said in the break that was really nice. He's not pushy.
I would love to know the story about you guys, how you worked together on a project, if you have an example.
Awesome. Hi guys, it's September show.
We are back. September show, yeah. About the story, we stopped there. Thank you, Paul, for the question. I have been working with Ion on the project. Do you remember the last newsletter we have been working?
Yeah.
Roses, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And what I really like that you were in during the shooting, and you said, you know what, guys, I know we started like this, but let's try this different variation of outfit. And what was good about it, that the model was feeling herself different, because some clothes were really ugly. And then when you style it nicely, and we have great stylist team, I would say, really, guys, you were amazing. But still, the model also start to feel her movements change, and also Ion is always bringing this positive energy, and everyone cheering up, start to laugh, and he's trying to make jokes and so on and so forth. It's kind of relaxing, nice atmosphere, no pushy. Yeah, maybe he can be pushy, and maybe I was lucky.
I mean, I can be if I have to, but I'm more like a peacetime leader. What I like about creativity is that it's playful. So if people don't feel that they can play, they're not going to be creative. If somebody's feels somebody breathing over their shoulder, for sure they might be doing their job mechanically, but I want people to be in that playful mood so that they can come up with out-of-the-box ideas. When you look at kids playing, they don't give a shit, man. They're just playing, it's who cares? And when you have that mentality, you come up with out-of-the-box ideas, and you're relaxed, and then people build on each other's ideas. And that's really the atmosphere that I'm always looking to create, whether it's on set or whether it's on in a brainstorming or it's in a team meeting or something like this. I want people to have that playful mindset and feel like it's okay to make a mistake. We see where it takes us. But for sure, there's also situations where you got to be more serious, more pragmatic, more strategic, and you be more this needs to be done, but not when you're supposed to be creative.
I absolutely agree. I've made this similar experiences where any bad vibes on set just completely kill the creativity, and especially for talent, they don't have this little extra that you have that they have on camera, it just dies when there's just negativity on set. And I think from just I've seen you in action maybe one day actually on Esprit, and I think I think you're a little bit more positive than me on set, because I would say I'm very neutral. I never have any negative emotion. I have extremely high patience I can repeat things 30 times in a row, whereas people told me, like, how can you even explain things 30 times in a row, exactly the same thing if they don't get it? You know, I can, because I know that I can't allow negative emotions or negativity on set, but at the same time, I'm not that highly positive, because then people are too relaxed, and then I feel like, okay, we need to get. So I'm a bit more pushy, but completely neutral. Whereas I saw you're being super friendly, super positive.
Thank you. It's also to do with I feel like the ultimate outcome that you want. So maybe that's one of like a difference. I've worked only for positive brands that are uplifting and funny and all of these things. But let's say you're directing a gloomy movie and you want an actor to feel not at ease. Then like Kubrick did this with the girl in.
I don't
The
agree
Shining.
with that, actually. I don't think that you shouldn't ever put actors in not at ease. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying to terrorize them like Kubrick did, but in a way, they're still human beings. So even today, actors do that. Which movie I was watching? There was a movie called The Order with Jude Law, and basically the protagonist and antagonist also on set, they didn't talk to each other. They avoided each other to have that energy of like, we don't really like each other into the final film. So there's like the key ingredient, I would say, comes down to emotional intelligence. As a film director, as a creative director, art director, as a leader, you need high emotional intelligence to understand truthfully what people are going through. People in front of you, if they're struggling, how can you lift them up? If they're too arrogant, how can you bring them down? So having that emotional intelligence and understanding of where people are, and you will have, if you're working with like a crew of 15 people, everybody's at different levels. So knowing like, oh yeah, this person tends to be like, not have their eyes on the clock. So I need to be more pushy with them, like, let's move along. This person is too hard on themselves. They think they don't do great work, but they do amazing work. So I need to encourage them and open their mind towards that. So it's you really, I think the key ingredient for any sort of leader, whether creative or strategic, is emotional intelligence. And this is something that you always can be better at and improve. And with every experience, you can extend a little bit your knowledge if you're self-aware, like what we talked about before.
Yeah, I think that's a good statement.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's put that on the poster.
No, but it's also true. And even while our show, you kind of subconsciously twice read my question, because before you start to talk about Brookfield in jeans brand, I was thinking, oh, it would be a nice question to ask about jeans. And then suddenly you brought up this question. I'm like, what?
What? Did he read my notes?
What?
Did he hack into my phone?
He knew about that. Yeah, guys, it's 4 minutes to go before our show ends, and I want to say really huge thank. I know the time flies so fast, crazy. I was already thinking to extend it, maybe have like a 6-hour show.
I have one final question to sum up. Is what would you like to do in the future? Do you want to continue with creative direction or something else?
Thank you for the question. I do want to continue and develop on this creative let's say advertising, and do more and more creative work in the let's say fashion world or other industries, whether it's automotive. I want to diversify my portfolio a little bit, but I also still have the dream of making feature films at some point. So I keep an eye out on this and develop that silently. That's still a dream. So
I mean, we wish you that dream become one day a reality, and I'm
Thank
pretty
you.
sure it's gonna be. You really talented, really positive, and it's always joy to work with you. Thank
Too
you so
positive.
much. Yeah, toxic positivity.
Toxic
You're so
positivity.
too positive. And of course, guys, I'm talking to our audience. You can follow Jon. Can you please tell us where we can find you?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind words and the invitation. People can find me on Instagram. My handle is Second Owl. I wanted to be Night Owl, but it was taken, so that's why I'm Second Owl. Or on LinkedIn, IRBARBU. I would be happy to hear from you and work together if the opportunity comes.
Yeah, please follow Jon and write him wonderful compliments and questions. Paul, thank you so much for being today a co-host.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was a pleasure, and we are wishing to everyone wonderful evening. Of course, September Show. Follow us everywhere on LinkedIn and Instagram, September 9 Production.
Awesome. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. It's September Show.